AskReddit by Dufilm 8896. What is denied by many people but it is actually 100% real. You can love someone else without loving yourself first. There's plenty of parents that hate themselves and love their kids. Not recommending it, but it's a stupid thing to deny. I would even argue it's much easier to love someone other than yourself. Herd mentality. The IQ of mob is the IQ of its dumbest member divided by the number of mobsters. Terry Pratchett. If it is happening to someone else, it can happen to you. Imma win that Powerball lottery next time, damn it. Majority of folks aren't playing the official rules. Monopoly also. Psychics cannot predict when I will visit them. Do you have an appointment? Why would I need one? You don't know how to fight unless you've been trained or have experience in fighting. Most people imagine themselves beating ass only to have reality smash them in the nose. A lot of people even injure themselves just trying to throw punches. My kids swore they could fight off a knife attack. My husband got a marker and amp, had our kid try to separately fight each of us off them. They failed horribly. But they now know it had been near impossible to defend themselves in a knife fight. Confirmation bias. Reading into a situation what you want to see. I knew someone would post this. When I went to sea I would see the occasional flying fish. It was surprising how many people thought I was pulling their leg when I told them about it. Flying fish don't have legs. That our memory is very fallible and does not work like a video camera. Witness testimony is notoriously unreliable. You'll get 20 people who all saw the same thing saying 20 different things. A lie detector isn't reliable. I'm stunned by the number of people who think it is. I see it so often in news stories about crimes. People in the comments section say just make him take a polygraph, then we'll know for sure. If anyone's reading this, don't ever agree to take a polygraph examination if you're suspected of involvement in a crime. There's a good chance it will produce a false negative positive, and even though the results are not admissible in court in many places, it may bias the police, the press and your friends and family against you. If police push you to submit to a polygraph examination, it's because they use it as an interrogation tool. Being 35-50 wasn't considered elderly back in the day. It was common for people to live into their 70s and 80s. The reason we get average lifespan data with such low numbers is because so many babies died, skewing the average values downward. I'm not personally religious, but I recall reading that the Bible mentions man being granted 70, that is 70, years of life. I agree with you. Even in ancient Egypt, if you made it through infancy then you'd probably be good for well into your 70s or beyond. People largely deny responsibility for anything they contribute to. I was driving with my grandmother on Christmas Day and she says, "Ugh, look at all these people out on the road. They ought to be at home." Nations that are ostensibly enemies trade and cooperate a great deal more than people generally believe. Almost everything I see is made in China, so I have to agree with this. Shark attacks are extremely rare. Can we get a shout out for cougars too? They've killed 27 people since 1868. https://en.wikipedia.org/list_of_fatal_list_attack_north_america . You could almost call them harmless with those numbers. Built-in obsolescence, planned obsolescence. Shocked how many people don't believe it happens. Planned obsolescence is a blight. It's okay to eat MSG. People eat piles of it without even realizing it. Shaving doesn't make the hair grow back thicker. Doesn't it feel thicker because of the ends of the hair being flat instead of pointed? Group opinion bias. I mean, you can spend 5 minutes on Reddit and see that this exists. The Monty Hall problem. Every time it is described in a post, such as a till, or on a Facebook post, a large number of people vehemently insist that switching doors couldn't possibly result in an increased chance of winning. Even after showing the results of simulations, providing mathematical proofs, or giving examples using more doors, the cognitive dissonance prevails. Best way to wrap your head around the MHP is to imagine 1000 doors. You pick one. Host opens 998 empty doors. Should you switch or stay with your pick? Life after love. I want to believe in life after love. That motherfucker back there. The flight never made it to its destination. Autism diagnosis. Myself and lots of autistic people I know are often told by people who seem to base their entire knowledge of autism off the movie Rain Man like, but you don't seem autistic. Research on autism has changed a lot since the 80s, but public perception has changed very little. As the saying goes, once you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. In-group preference. Implicit biases. Despite countless studies providing evidence that it is human nature and inevitable, people still deny and refuse to acknowledge their own actions. Pretty privilege. How facial attractive people get guaranteed a lot of predetermined social, financial, and romantic success at birth. My wife is a very attractive Latina, and she will be the first to tell you that life would have been much more difficult for her in the South if she had not been so attractive. She has seen plenty of racism and discrimination toward her siblings and other family members, but has very rarely been the target of racism herself. She'll also be the first to tell you that being attractive gets you opportunities and preferential treatment that most people would not receive. Unfortunately, the Holocaust. My camp girlfriend. You wouldn't know her, she goes to another school. In Canada. America uses propaganda against their own population. And everyone is susceptible to propaganda, even if you are aware you are looking at propaganda. The CIA trafficked cocaine into the United States in the 1970s-1980s to fund Central American freedom fighters, stop communism, and protect the American way of life. Once people realized the government was responsible for the drug epidemic that destroyed our inner cities for decades, it's not that hard to start questioning other decisions they have made. I have to correct you on this. The CIA trafficked cocaine into the United States in the 1970s-1980s to fund Central American freedom fighters, terrorists, stop communism, democracy, and protect the American way of life, financial interests of corporations, and the ability to control the politics of another nation. You also left out the fact that the CIA trafficked heroin into the United States in the 1960s-1970s, to spread through black neighborhoods to make people of color less uppity, and easier to arrest to eliminate their ability to vote. Talked to a bunch of fanboys about this, but Taylor Swift was born rich, and I mean mega rich, with 9-figure money on both sides of her family. All these people thought she came up from nothing. Supposedly she made her guitar teacher not be able to promote he gave her lessons because she was self-taught. Invisible health conditions like dysautonomia, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue syndrome. Also ADHD. People think you are faking just to get a Darryl. I'm caught in this fun limbo of too disabled to work without immense suffering, but not disabled enough to qualify for assistance. It's 100% BC of this. I got brushed off by several doctors to the point that I'm in worse health than I could have been with proper treatment. If they can't see it, they don't care. That having children is not for everyone, that it's not all sunshine and the meaning of life, and millions of people regret being parents. This is true, and I think everyone on both sides of this needs to accept that becoming a parent means absolutely committing yourself to the cause. You can't just give up when it gets too hard. Your kids are now your entire world. If you're not ready to commit to that, then you're not ready to be a parent. Too many of my relatives saw having multiple kids as a fun thing to do when they were wholly unprepared for the situation, and now their kids and those kids' grandparents, if present, have to deal with the consequences. It's also a lot harder to have kids now than it was 25 years ago when I was born. I owe my entire life to the benefits system that supported my single mother and her 4 children, which was slowly dismantled as I became older, to the point that my mother started leeching from her kids because she could no longer support herself. Now I'm earning more than she ever has, but I can't even afford to rent a flat. That they are good humans because they have good thoughts. You have to do good to be a good person. The world is full of people complaining, but we are in need of people willing to sacrifice and not make it about themselves. We judge others by their actions but ourselves by our intentions. Psychological addiction to marijuana is a real thing. Edit. To the you can be psychologically addicted to anything crowd. Yes, you can treat your dopamine receptors as a gumball machine with various different activities, but these are different to imbibing a foreign substance which has the side effect of releasing dopamine. The point is, many people deny that it's addictive but can go an hour without being high. I'm sure y'all have seen burnouts. Edit 2. Lol, dead as Reddit cause I'm crying. This is especially true if you struggle with your mental health. I tried weed for the first time when I was 14 and it was an immediate relief from all of my worries and anxiety. I started smoking more frequently until it became a daily thing, but I didn't realize I was only getting high to escape from my problems. That was 5 years ago, and here I am sitting in my room, still high as fuck and still running away from my problems. That opened containers of baking powder and baking soda lose their efficacy in baking over time. Make sure to replace them every 6 months or so to ensure your baked goods cook properly. That colds are caused by viruses and not being cold. 1. Flushable wipes should not actually be flushed. 2. You should not use scented pH balancing soap to wash your vagina. Edit. You should not use this specific soap on any part of your genitals. This was about specific soap advertising to balance your vaginal pH and make your vagina smell like flowers. If you do not have a vagina, this didn't even apply to you in the first place. Read with your eyeballs, people, for fuck's sake. Edit number 2. If you have a penis, please wash your genitals with soap and water. If you have a vagina, wash the vulva with warm water and a mild soap, but steer clear of Vagisil or any soap that claims to balance your pH and or make your vagina smell like fruits or whatever. Yep. A Democrat in the Texas House is trying to pass a law that will ban companies from putting flushable on wipes and require them to put a notice that they can't be flushed. The sixth extinction. I've never heard of this. Eli 5? Most of the division in society today is manufactured. The dangers of texting and driving. I call my friends out all of the time for doing so and the response is always it's fine. I'm really good at multitasking. Well, Sarah, if you're that fucking good at it, why have we been sitting at this green light for 5 minutes? Literally 90% of people I see driving have a device in hand. It's so fucking selfish and reckless. No amount of alcohol is healthy. That is why I do meth instead. That people in power don't care about you. Skin cancer from not wearing sunblock. It absolutely blows my mind when grown-ass adults brag about not wearing sunscreen. Like it's a real point of pride for them. Enjoy your early wrinkles and spots. Probably the same people who brag about not reading books. Most genocides tend to have a lot of deniers. Unfortunately, the Armenian genocide, the Holocaust, Stalin, etc. I'm omitting the Great Leap Forward as a genocide because I don't know enough about it or international law to know if it qualifies. but it was definitely the world's biggest bloodbath. The rape of Nanking. So many Japanese deny it happened, including some politicians. The earth is round. How do people still believe it's flat, Mayo? That everything in this world is controlled by money. Who paid you to say that? Conspiracies. Just because conspiracy theorists are often wrong doesn't mean that nobody ever conspires. Does anybody remember the price-fixing episode of This America Life? It's all about a bunch of corporate execs that actively colluded against the American consumer to keep their packaged foods from lowering in price. It's technically a conspiracy that was proven in a court of law, but do you honestly believe that was the only price-fixing scam in the history of our country? No way in hell. https://www.thisamericanlife.org/168/the-fix-is-in right square bracket open bracket https://www.thisamericanlife.org/168/the-fix-is-in. Eater, thank you so much for the award. Just wait until conspiracy theorists discover they are part of a conspiracy to use conspiracy theorists to spread disinformation via conspiracy theories. That Jesus in the New Testament was wildly opposed to what would become the traditions and practices of Christian fundamentalists. It is easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven, Jesus. What you do to the least of you do to me, Jesus. Forgive dead every 7 years, God. Edit. And so many of you want to argue semantics. That verse in Leviticus about man lying with a man is an abomination? That wasn't added to the Bible until 1946. The original text was talking about sexually assaulting children. https://e2%-2%80%-9 Australia. I don't know, man. Sounds made up to me. Men can be victims of domestic abuse and sexual assault. That financial success has largely to do with luck, where you were born, who your parents are, etc. I remember a freshman year sociology class, one of the first classes I ever took. Professor started the class by saying, "Every one of you in this room has already made it. The fact that you are even sitting here means you have made it. Right now, you are successful in a way most people can never be, and there is nothing you did to earn that." Man, talk about an opening line. At the time, I didn't really understand. I do now. He was right. What positioned me to be able to be successful was everything that happened before I ever left home.